Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Dan Blanchard in the Travel Through Time show. I'm here in Hartford, Connecticut at Nook Farm. This is such an amazing place of the west end of Hartford. Back in the late 1800s, this was the place to be. This is the place where neighbors Mark Twain, whose house is right behind me, and I go over here, that was his carriage house. Right there, that's the Harriet Beecher Stowe Museum. And her house is kind of hard to see. It's right there, Harriet Beecher Stowe, right? And then there's the Catherine Day house right there. But let me just tell you a little something about this Nook Farm. You're looking at about 40 acres of land here. And this is where the most famous man in the world in the late 1800s, Mark Twain, and the most famous woman in the world at this time in history, Harriet Beecher Stowe, were neighbors. Not only in the same city, Hartford, but they were in the same neighborhood, living side by side in Hartford during the late 1800s. The most famous man and the most famous woman in the world living as neighbors in Hartford at this Nook Farm. You know, and they were hanging out with all sorts of amazing neighbors who were intellectuals, reformers, lawyers, authors, you name it, they were here. You had the Gillettes here. Yes, William Gillette was born here, who became the most famous actor in the world, was born here, right? You had the Hooker descendants, Thomas Hooker's family who founded Connecticut. Yes, these are their neighbors. These are the ones that were leaving their doors unlocked and open so they could hang out and chit-chat and drive the intellectual and reform movement of the late 1800s right here. Now, eventually, the years will go by, right? People will pass away. Mark Twain included will pass away. Hartford will use eminent domain to take a bunch of the land here at Nook Farm to make Hartford High School. And this place will become like museums, which is what they are today, all right? But it's still a beautiful place, all right? And an inspiring place to come and check out, all right? So let's think about the leadership lessons for a minute. You know, we could start, I guess, with Mark Twain, right? He was obviously a literary giant, humorist, right? He would poke fun at society when society wasn't living up to its ideals. Harriet Beecher Stowe, very, very religious-like. You know, she wrote the Uncle Tom's Cabin book, you know, attacking the moral wrong of slavery. She was a huge leader in that, all right? And if you just think about it, what's another good leadership lesson? Another great leadership lesson is who are your neighbors? Who are you hanging out with? I mean, this was the place where the intellectual giants were hanging out and molding and influencing the political thought of basically the late 1800s coming from right here, all right? So, again, if you haven't been here to the Twain and Harriet Beecher Stowe houses on Nook Farm, you should come here and check this place out in Hartford, Connecticut, all right? Again, this is Dan Blanchard from the Travel Through Time show. Definitely come here, check it out, learn some amazing history, check out your leadership lessons, and let's intertwine it all with me, Dan Blanchard. Be sure to like, comment, share the show, and I'll be checking you out real soon again when I'm going to go to one of Connecticut's historical gems sometime next week called Yale University. See you then. Take care.